A black CEO walked into a bank to open a $1 million account, but they treated her like a criminal. 9 minutes later, she owned the building and fired the entire staff. This story will leave you speechless. If you love real power moves and justice served cold, hit that subscribe button and watch till the end. You won't believe how she turned the tables. The marble floors gleamed beneath Danielle Reese's designer heels as she stepped into the grand downtown bank. Tall glass walls framed the skyline outside, and the lobby buzzed with the quiet arrogance of wealth. Dressed in a tailored navy pantsuit, diamond-studded Cartier watch on her wrist, Danielle looked every bit the powerhouse CEO she was. But to the staff at the front desk, she might as well have been invisible. She approached the reception area, where a young banker looked up with a polite, but performative, smile. "Can I help you?" he asked, his eyes scanning her like she didn't belong in the building. "Yes," Danielle replied calmly. "I'm here to speak with the branch manager about opening a corporate treasury account." The banker blinked, confused. Do you have an appointment?" he asked, almost accusingly. "No," Danielle replied, unbothered. "I'm a property executive. I was advised I could walk in to discuss the terms directly." Behind him, another staff member leaned in, whispering, "She must be a contractor or something." The young banker gave a tight smile. "I'm sorry, ma'am. This branch handles high-value clients only. We don't usually open that type of account without a referral." Danielle raised an eyebrow. "And how do you know I'm not one of those clients?" He gave a short laugh. "Let's just say, experience." Danielle took a deep breath. Around her, suited customers were being escorted to private rooms, served coffee, greeted with smiles. A well-dressed white couple who had just walked in were immediately ushered forward by another staffer. She waited. No one moved. A security guard began pacing near her. "Excuse me," she said again. "May I speak with the branch manager?" This time, the banker didn't hide his irritation. "Look, we're busy right now. If you're just looking to cash a check or open a basic account, you may want to try one of our other locations. There's a branch across town that might be more suitable." Danielle didn't flinch. She studied the arrogance on his face, the smug confidence that came from years of getting away with this kind of treatment. She gave a tight smile. "Perfect," she said softly. "I'll wait." Not because she had to, but because she was about to make this the worst 9 minutes of their careers. Danielle sat in the leather chair near the lobby's edge, posture calm but her mind calculating. She'd built Reese Holdings from scratch, a multimillion-dollar real estate firm that now owned properties in 3 major cities. Ironically, this very branch sat on land leased from her company. But none of that mattered here. All they saw was a black woman sitting alone, undeserving. Across the room, the banker whispered to a colleague. "She said she wants a corporate treasury account. Can you believe that?" The woman laughed. "She probably Googled the term this morning." Danielle caught every word. 5 minutes passed. No coffee offered. No acknowledgement. No manager. The white couple who came in after her had already been taken to the executive suite. She stood again and approached the desk. "Excuse me. I'd like to confirm, has the manager been notified?" The banker didn't bother hiding his irritation. "I told you, we're booked with real clients right now." Danielle smiled tightly. "You do realize who I am, don't you?" "Ma'am, look," he said with a sigh. "This branch is not a walk-in center. We don't open high-tier accounts for just anyone. There's a process. Background checks. Minimum balance requirements. And referrals. We don't just hand out treasury accounts because someone dresses up and shows up." There it was, the moment of clarity. Danielle wasn't shocked. Disappointed, maybe, but not shocked. This wasn't new. She'd seen this script before, in boardrooms, lobbies, and lounges. But they didn't realize they were in her building, collecting paychecks signed through her company's lease. Just then, the security guard moved closer again. "Everything all right here?" The banker crossed his arms. "We're fine. She's just being persistent." Danielle tilted her head slightly. Persistent, she repeated. That's one word for it. The banker chuckled. Look, maybe try a community bank in your area. They might be able to help someone like you. Someone like me? She asked softly. Yes, he said, oblivious. No offense. Danielle let the silence settle like smoke. None taken, she said finally, reaching for her phone. But if I were you, I'd savor these next few minutes. Because they're the last peaceful ones you'll have at this job. And with that, she stepped outside. To make one very important call. The sun glared off the polished windows as Danielle stepped outside the bank, the insult still lingering like a bitter taste. She took a deep breath, then pulled out her phone, not to call anyone just yet, but to hit record. She turned the camera toward the building, her voice steady. Downtown Westbridge Branch. July 8th. 2:41 p.m. Denied service. Racial profiling. Recording begins now. She slid the phone into her jacket pocket, still recording, and walked calmly back inside. Inside the lobby, nothing had changed, except now the sneers were sharper. The banker whispered to another employee, eyes flicking toward Danielle with smirks that said, "She's still here?" Another customer entered behind her, an older white man in a golf vest. He was greeted instantly. "Good afternoon, sir. Can we get you a coffee while you wait?" Danielle stood in full view of the cameras, arms crossed, waiting. No one greeted her. No one asked if she was okay. The same security guard was now leaning against the wall across from her, arms folded like she was a threat. She caught him looking her over. Not curious, suspicious. She was dressed in power and poise, but to them, her skin outweighed her status. The color of her suit didn't matter. The color of her skin told them everything they thought they needed to know. "Still here?" the banker called out sarcastically from the counter. Danielle didn't answer. She just looked at him. Steady. Patient. Like someone waiting for the storm to arrive. An older black woman across the lobby looked at Danielle, then at the staff, then lowered her eyes. She knew what was happening. She'd seen it before. Danielle stepped forward again. "Has the manager become available yet?" The banker waved her off. "Ma'am, I told you, we're too busy for walk-ins. Please don't make a scene." Make a scene? Danielle smiled to herself. She glanced up at the bank security camera above the doorway. "Good," she whispered, just loud enough for herself. "You're watching." Then, slowly, she stepped back toward the exit, but not before locking eyes with the security guard. "You might want to get comfortable," she said calmly, "because you'll be explaining this footage to your corporate office by dinner." And with that, she made the call. By the time Danielle re-entered the bank, a quiet storm was brewing. She had just gotten off the phone with her legal team and her vice president of property affairs. Her message was crystal clear. "This branch has violated every tenant conduct clause in our corporate lease. I want eyes on it now." As she stepped back into the lobby, her presence seemed to weigh heavier than before. The air turned tense. Staff shifted awkwardly, sensing something had changed, though they didn't yet realize they had just poked a bear in pearls. Just then, the branch manager appeared. Mid-40s. Clean-cut. Pinstripe suit. Confident in the kind of way that comes from thinking the system will always protect him. He approached Danielle with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Miss Reese, is it?" he asked, glancing at her like he was trying to figure out where he'd seen her before, if. "That's right," she replied, her tone cool. "I understand you've had some confusion with our front desk," he said, offering a patronizing chuckle. "I just want to clarify that we're a specialized branch. High net worth clients only. I'm sure you understand." "Oh, I understand perfectly," Danielle replied. "I'm here to open a corporate treasury account under Reese Holdings. The same Reese Holdings that owns the lease to this entire building." His smile faltered, but pride wouldn't let it drop completely. "Well, regardless of your claims," he said, choosing his words carefully, "we reserve the right to refuse service when we feel a customer is being uncooperative." Danielle blinked slowly. Uncooperative. Yes, he said, folding his arms. Recording staff. Raising your voice. Making demands. That's not how we conduct business here. She let the silence hang. Everyone nearby turned to listen. Tellers paused, the security guard shifted. Then she spoke, each word sharp and deliberate. You denied me based on assumption. You humiliated me publicly. And now you're accusing me of being uncooperative because I didn't smile through it. The manager bristled. Ma'am, if this is going to escalate further, I'll have to ask you to leave. Danielle stepped closer, voice low but cutting. No. You won't need to ask me to leave, she said. Because in less than 5 minutes, your employment here, along with everyone else's, will be the only thing leaving. She turned, walked out, and this time, she didn't look back. Danielle didn't storm out. She glided. Composed. But every step toward the sidewalk was fueled by a storm that had been building for years. Years of being overlooked, second-guessed, or mistaken for someone else. She stepped into her black SUV, closed the door softly, and opened her laptop. Within seconds, she was on a video call with her executive legal team, her face expressionless but her voice razor-sharp. Activate Clause 12B of our lease agreement for Westbridge Branch. Her general counsel blinked. The anti-discrimination clause? Exactly. Violation caught on camera. Multiple witnesses. Disrespect at the highest level. I want the branch shut down and the lease suspended effective immediately. And notify the regional property director. He'll want to be on site within 10. Yes, ma'am. Danielle ended the call and immediately rang Elijah Monroe, her VP of Property Affairs. Elijah, time to pull the plug on the Westbridge location. He didn't hesitate. On it. You see, what none of those smug employees inside the bank realized was that Danielle's company, Reese Holdings, owned the building they worked in. The bank wasn't just a tenant. They were on a tight lease with strict codes of conduct tied to equity, inclusion, and tenant behavior. A lease Danielle personally revised after another black woman had been mistreated by a luxury retailer in one of her properties the year before. This wasn't revenge. This was policy. As Danielle sat quietly in her car, she pulled out her phone again and rewatched the footage she had captured earlier. Each insult, each smirk, the moment the manager accused her of being uncooperative. All of it was now evidence. Her driver turned toward her. Everything all right, Ms. Reese? She gave a small smile. It's about to be. Inside the branch, the air remained casual. The staff thought they'd gotten rid of a difficult customer. The manager sipped coffee. The security guard leaned against the wall. The banker at the front desk was joking with his coworker again. Then, the front doors opened. And in walked Elijah Monroe, flanked by the regional property director, a corporate security officer, and 2 members of Danielle's legal team. The silence was immediate. The reckoning had arrived. The double glass doors swung open, and for the first time that day, the bank lobby fell completely silent. The manager looked up mid-sip, startled by the entrance of 4 sharply dressed professionals, none of whom wore banking badges. At the front of the group stood Elijah Monroe, tall, composed, and holding a sleek leather folder embossed with the Reese Holdings crest. Behind him walked the regional property director, his face unreadable. 2 legal representatives followed, flanking a uniformed private security officer with a clipboard. The front desk banker squinted. Can I help you? Elijah didn't respond. He simply walked past him, eyes fixed on the branch manager. Jeremy Callahan? He asked, voice calm but stern. Yes, the manager replied cautiously, standing up and instinctively fixing his tie. My name is Elijah Monroe, Vice President of Property Affairs for Reese Holdings, the company that owns the building you're currently operating in, Elijah said, flipping open the folder. You and your team have violated 3 major clauses in your lease agreement, including our strict anti-discrimination and tenant conduct policies. Jeremy's smile twitched, but didn't fully drop. Look, I think there's been some misunderstanding. If this is about that woman earlier. Elijah cut him off, handing him a document. This is not a misunderstanding. We have video evidence, eyewitness accounts, and audio recordings of discriminatory treatment directed toward one of our executives, Danielle Reese, your landlord and the owner of this building." The words hit like thunder. Every employee froze. A teller gasped. The security guard's arms slowly dropped to his sides. "Wait, she owns the building," one of them whispered. Jeremy's face turned ashen. I had no idea. If I had known." "But you didn't need to know," Elijah snapped. "You didn't need to know her name or her title to treat her with basic dignity. And that's the problem." He turned to the private security officer. "Effective immediately, this branch's lease is suspended pending legal review. Corporate operations have been notified. The entire branch team is to vacate the premises within the hour." Jeremy stammered. "This is a mistake. My team, we should have treated her like a human being," Elijah said coldly. "But now, you'll treat her like your former landlord." He paused. "And your unemployment officer." The atmosphere in the bank was electric, charged with disbelief, humiliation, and a creeping wave of panic. Phones rang unanswered. Customers looked on, whispering. Employees stood frozen, processing the impossible truth. The woman they had mocked, dismissed, and treated like a nuisance, owned the building. The regional property director stepped forward, addressing the staff with all the warmth of a courtroom verdict. "This branch is now under temporary suspension pending further investigation. Pack your personal items and exit in an orderly fashion. Do not touch any corporate equipment. Do not log into your systems. A full review is underway." The front desk banker, now pale and shaking, opened his mouth to speak, but words failed him. The teller who had laughed earlier began crying softly behind the counter. And then, the glass doors opened again. Danielle Reese walked in. She didn't speak at first. She didn't need to. Her presence alone sliced through the room. Head held high, expression composed, she walked past the same guard who had stared her down, past the banker who had called her persistent, and straight toward the center of the lobby. Jeremy, the branch manager, tried to speak. "Ms. Reese, Danielle, please, if we could just talk for a moment." She raised her hand. He stopped. She looked around, her voice clear and calm. "Let me say this once. You never know who you're talking to. You never know who's watching. You assumed I was a nuisance. You treated me like a problem. You disrespected me because I didn't look like your idea of a millionaire or a CEO." Her gaze landed on the security guard. "You followed me like I was a thief. Not a partner. Not a professional. Just a problem in a pantsuit." She turned slowly, addressing the room. "I built Reese Holdings to create power where it was denied. To hold systems accountable when they try to erase people like me. What happened here today. It's exactly why I wrote those clauses into your lease." Silence. "I'm not here for revenge," she said. "I'm here to set a standard." Then, as she turned to leave, she paused. "Oh, and Mr. Security?" He looked up nervously. "You're dismissed too." The doors shut behind her as the applause from stunned onlookers slowly began to rise. By sunset, the lobby was empty. The bank's lights flickered off, computers shut down, and the last of the stunned employees had left the building, heads low, futures uncertain. But for Danielle Reese, the day was far from over. In her penthouse office overlooking the skyline, she sat calmly at her desk. Her phone buzzed non-stop, calls from reporters, emails from corporate executives, and requests for interviews pouring in like rain. But Danielle wasn't rushing. She was preparing. She uploaded the security footage, time-stamped and watermarked, alongside her own recorded video, which captured the moment she was told to try a community bank in her neighborhood. Her caption was simple, devastatingly elegant. "Professionalism isn't about how you treat CEOs. It's about how you treat everybody. Dr. Hashtag Black Excellence, hashtag Anti-Discrimination, hashtag Know Who You're Talking To." Within 2 hours, the video hit 3 million views. By midnight, it had reached 10 million. Comments flooded in. She walked in as a client and walked out as the boss. This is why representation at the top matters. They tried to humble her, not knowing she owned the building. News outlets picked it up within hours. CNN, Forbes, The Shade Room, and Bloomberg Business all ran headlines. Black CEO fires entire bank staff after discriminatory incident, and she owns the property. The bank's corporate office scrambled into damage control, releasing a hasty statement. We are aware of the incident at our Westbridge branch and have launched a full investigation. We do not condone discrimination in any form. But Danielle? She was already steps ahead. The next morning, she appeared on national television. Poised, fierce, unapologetic. I didn't go in looking for a fight, she told the anchor. I went in as a businesswoman. But what I encountered is what far too many black professionals experience: disrespect wrapped in a smile. That branch wasn't just unprofessional, it was unsafe. So I shut it down. Her final words became a rallying cry across social media. Respect isn't earned by status. It's a right. And the moment we let discrimination slide, we become part of the system that sustains it. Danielle Reese didn't just walk away with justice. She walked away as a symbol of power, of purpose, of what happens when you own the building and the narrative.